Hello, everyone. This is John, and welcome to RPGs and More. And in tonight's video, aside from a very curious darling who is deciding to poke her head into the screen, we are going to do an unboxing of a piece of mail that I just got today. I came home from a long day of work, and it was good work, but I was very tired. And then I saw this package, and I'm a little excited because I know it could be one of two things, and either one would be pretty cool. So I thought we would do something of an unboxing together. So here's the package. And where's the spot? They always have a spot. At least most packages have a spot that'll help you figure out how to open them. Oops, bonk. Sorry. Bonk a kitty on the head day. Not on purpose. Oh, I think I know which one this is. And it's exciting. Open the box. There it is. Okay. Shall we? Get that out of there. All right. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Okay. This is the print on demand Pendragon. Oh gosh, look at that art. Oh, look at the art. It's a knight in shining armor on a horse. Oh, I'm loving it. I'm loving it already. Okay, this is exciting. Oh my gosh, that flag is cool. I've seen this art on the store pages, you know, where you kind of look and you do the whole pinch zoom thing and you examine stuff and it's like, oh, cool, that looks nice. But it's so much cooler to actually look at it in person and be like, oh, look at the details. Oh, it's a short. I might be a little bit of a geek. Anyway, let's take a quick look. This is going to be like my first impressions actually looking at this, because I'll be honest, like I've looked at Pendragon before, but I've never read it. So let's just see. What's my first impression of all this? Aside from, oh, beautiful hardcover. All right. Okay. The three crowns of the blue. So I like the color blue. And so this is the first thing that I see is that coat of arms. And it's all blue and gold. Ah, oh, I love it. Beautiful color combination. Absolutely wonderful. Now, blue text, interesting choice. I wonder how that would interact with people with color blindness. I don't know. If you are a person who has color blindness and you want to educate me on how that works, like I'd appreciate it. Because I work in a field where knowing about various disabilities, limitations is important. So I'll be honest, I don't know how that works. It's not something that's crossed my radar too much. I just know it's out there. So if someone wants to educate me, that'd be great. But otherwise, don't stress on it. Introduction. Oh gosh, more cool art. Ah, neat. So this paper is definitely different than what you usually get from an official, not official, but because this is official, but from a book that is professionally printed and bound for distribution. Whereas these are print on demand, and they are for distribution, but they're usually distributed to just one person, ha, which is the one who ordered it, me. Ha. All right. Anyway, so the art's a little bit different, and it's neat. I like the use of the heraldry art, the art that was kind of evolved as people were using heraldry and seeking out more interesting and varied ways to use heraldry, and that's something that I find fascinating. I'm not super knowledgeable about heraldry or how it works. I am aware that it is a thing, and I have read about it in greater detail in the past, but the old noggin doesn't always retain all that information. But I love seeing it being used. I think that's great. No No great phrases to kind of galvanize us, but more great art. Ah, okay. Look, see, I love it. All right, this is cool for me because Pendragon is supposed to be, from whatever everything I've read, it is a great system for dynastic role playing, for playing out the generations of your characters. And I think that's really neat, really actually, and the idea of being able to play out like each generation of a noble house is a neat idea. But I'm curious about how it's going to work. Just one character, and not trying to do the whole dynastic thing and just playing. Oh, this is neat. Okay, this one is stained glass window based art, basically, and it has some of the tropes of the chivalry and the heraldry, but it's definitely, I guess the other one probably was also stained glass window. Maybe I just didn't notice, but this is definitely a stained glass window. But I like it. I like the Arthur and the Merlin and the dragon. Um, I think that's really cool. All right. So the Pendragon realm. Oh, that'll be. Oh, here we go. A map. Cool. Got Cumbria. Uh, Logres. Ireland. Everyone else has fancy names. Scotland is Pickland, They got all this fancy stuff. But Ireland, it's Ireland. I mean, come on. It's just, oh god. That I need to actually study this more and find out if Ireland has really just been called Ireland for like almost 2,000 years. I thought it was Erin or Era. Um, I know that's what it's been called in the past. I don't know if that was like its official name. I would find it amusing if it basically has always translated to Ireland no matter what. I would find that very funny. I really don't think that's the case. I think that people are just not knowing what to call it and therefore calling it Ireland because what else do we do? Without doing a lot of research. But anyway, oh, long ships. Oh, the great old. Oh, so much art, so much fun art. Okay, um, I'm liking the instead of black and white, it's kind of black, tan, and white that they're doing with some of this art, where it's like a brown scale instead of a gray scale. I think that's really cool, and it helps to kind of set a mood with the book, which is really helpful. That I like it when books are able to set a mood with the style of the art, even if not necessarily the substance of the art. Um, because the substance is saying one thing, but the style is saying something else. And the style here is very neat. Okay, again, blue, more stained glass window art on in front of you. So that, yeah, the first chapter was definitely, or the introduction was definitely a stained glass window art. Still, heraldic symbols are everywhere. I like it. This is neat. Character creation chapter. I can't wait to dig into that. Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. So part of character creation, they have a whole section on concepts of different forms of heraldry, concept sketches. And that means that you can use these to create the heraldry of your knight, to use these ideas, they're, oh, that is, and they give you the actual, like, the names for them and what they all mean. So you're not just like making it up or anything. Oh, that's cool. I'm glad they do that because the heraldry is a skill. It is a skill. It is a knowledge, and you have to know about it. You have to research it. You have to spend a lot of time to learn it and understand it. It's not something you pick up, just be like, I read a book and now I know heraldry. Um, and so it's kind of neat to see it here because it's a very basic, very fast introduction to what heraldry is and what it means and what it represents. Which is not common knowledge anymore, I have found. Like, I grew up knowing what heraldry was, but that was because I grew up obsessed with knights in shining armor. And like, well, heraldry was just part of the thing. So I don't claim of being a scholar or anything, but at least I understood what it was. And I have found since leaving my sheltered upbringing that heraldry is one of those things that most people are like, huh? What? It's pretty pictures on a shield. What does it mean? I don't know. Which is fine, because most people don't need to know that. It's not a survival skill. It's one of those things for us historian type peoples or history loving people that can look at it and go, I understand this information from way back in the day. Ah, yes, the days of yore when chivalry was and heraldry was intended to be used in everyday skills. Because you got to remember, during that time, heraldry really was like an everyday skill, because you would have to understand your own symbols and the symbols of your house and your friend's house. And if you were a noble especially, then understanding heraldry was a life-saving skill. It could save your life because you could know who a knight was on the battlefield, who to surrender to or who to not surrender to. Who's that knight that maybe I'm not going to fight that guy on the battlefield because I recognize his heraldry and I know that's Duke so-and-so, and I'm not going to kill Duke so-and-so. I'm going to capture them instead. So knowing your heraldry could save your life or save someone else's life, and it would also is what would help you to identify who on the battlefield was the person that you wanted to take prisoner in order to ransom later. Because like a lot of you try to take anyone who's a knight prisoner. If you could, for ransom, because that's how a lot of people made their money. A lot of knights made their fortunes by capturing and ransoming other knights. And nobles did the same with each other. But you couldn't do that if you didn't know the heraldry and how to recognize somebody on the battlefield. So that's why heraldry was an important skill for a lot of people. And even if you weren't a knight and just like a well-paid man at arms, you'd still need to know these things so you could identify your knight and your knight's friends on the battlefield, and know like who people were, because people didn't train with each other the way that modern armies do, and so it was just different. This is cool. Okay. All right. This is an interesting example of armor for a woman. Now, I'm not 100% sure how historically accurate that particular armor is, because it looks to me like the chest plate, the way it's constructed, would focus the sword blade towards the heart between here, and that's not what you want in armor. That's not what armor is supposed to do. So most people, if they were making room for a bust, would simply make room for a bust as like one solid bend, instead of two separate pieces. Due to like, I have two busts that I need to accentuate. Like, no, unless you're like it doesn't seem like it would really work that way. To me, my understanding of armor, that wouldn't really work. But at the same time, what I will say is, as far as artistic goes, it looks great. It looks beautiful. And if that's all the artist wants to do is just show armor that looks aesthetically pleasing, well done. And that artist did armor that, aside from that one aspect, is highly functional looking. The appearance is incredibly functional. The helmet, very functional. Not sure how the person's going to get all their hair under that helmet, but yeah, male knights had to deal with the same thing because they had long hair too. So not really something I'm going to worry about. It's very nice. It's very nice. It's so rare to see well done female armor that actually is covering the body and offering total protection because there's a whole chainmail bikini thing that people do, and I get it from a like I like seeing women in skimpy clothing aspect. Like, okay, cool. I'm not, I'm not one of you. I kind of like, I'll have my moments, but for the most part, I like having people in general wearing appropriate clothing because it's appropriate and it's aesthetically pleasing, and there's a lot of art put into clothing and a lot of artistry put into how clothing rests upon people, and so it's neat to do that kind of art. So anyway, but still cool armor. How many more digressions can I get in this video? Who wants to count? Let's start a count. Start a count in the chat. Or sorry, start a count in the comments. How many times does John digress? More art. Oh, okay. This is interesting. So they're showing different. Oh wow, I like these Scandinavian helmets. Historically accurate, as far as I can tell, Scandinavian helmets with the face protection. Oh, that's cool. All right, more with the blue text. Like other games do red text, but this one does blue text at the beginning of each section. I kind of like it. I mean, because it doesn't bother me, and I can read it just fine. So I like it. I approve. I appreciate. Well done. Okay. So here's a map of, I guess, a particular location. This is Salisbury. All right. Okay. So this is, and there's another map that kind of shows various locations of various manors, giving you an idea of what a manor area would look like. Okay, I like that. Chapter about skills. I'm going to kind of speed up a little bit because this is getting a little long. I'm really digging the art, though. The art is very evocative of the period, very evocative of the subject matter. There's a young knight trying to pull a sword from the stone. Nice. A dragon? Actually, it's looked like a sea monster. A sea monster? Cool. It's two adventurers in a boat, and there's two sea monsters coming towards them. Look like flying fish. And they're trying to beat them off with an oar. That's awesome. They're so going to die. This is cool. I like it. They may not actually die. I may be very wrong, but it's cool. I like it. A man in it looks like 14th century looking armor. Well, it's no, it's not 14th century. I'm sorry. That's like a weird artistic mix of full plate and less than full plate. And he's carrying a two-handed sword that would not be out of place in in like early Renaissance. So that's kind of fun. I got to admit, I enjoy. Um, I don't mind it as much as some historical oriented people do when you mix and match generations of armor and weapons and things like that. Because having like a knight in 12th century armor wielding a massive two-handed greatsword, like that would not have happened. As far as I recall, great swords or two-handed great swords like we would see in movies and stuff weren't really made until much later in time. Like there was the war sword that would be kind of like a hand and a half sword, maybe, eh? But like the typical great sword or the Zweihanders that we're used to seeing, like they didn't really become popular or vogue until much later. I want to say like 15th century. I could be wrong. There are sword people that know these things much better than I do, and I'm sure someone will correct me, and that's okay. But it's I don't mind when you mix that stuff in because it's cool as long as it's cool and as long as the armor that you are using is accurate to what's being portrayed. Then I think that's really neat. Unless you're doing something like I'm not even bothering to be historical and we're doing fantasy. And at that point, if it's fantasy, then you can do whatever you want, and I don't care as long as you make it look cool. Then I'm good because I'm not a rivet counter. I'm not going to count the buttons on the coats that you're giving to people. I just want it to look cool. But I do appreciate when people can make it look cool and historical at the same time. I don't know. Does that count as a digression? All right. Oh, okay. Here's another interesting choice on this woman's dress. Let me show you this art here. So you see how in her dress there's panels that are intersecting in her down the front of her torso here, and it's very similar. Like the first thing that I think of when I look at that is intersecting armor bands, or banded armor as it's called by D&D people. I know that's not actually what this is, but it's neat. And I love the way they drew her hair. Oh my gosh, the way the hair is flowing and flowing around her shoulders and out behind. Oh, that's beautiful. It's gorgeous. The sword hilt's cool too. But that's a cool picture. All right. And that's all about glory and awards. So clearly this person is probably, since she's coming out of the water, I'm assuming that's supposed to be the Lady of the Lake. And maybe that the way that her dress is done is like, hey, she's coming out of a lake. Maybe she's like a fish. You know, it could be fun. Combat chapter. I'm going to spend a lot of time with you. There's a knight just putting a spear through a heavily armored barbarian type person. That's kind of cool. An evil knight with like demonic face on the helmet, front of the helmet. I'm cool with that. Another knight fighting a dragon. Very Eastern looking dragon. Interesting. Ah, the joust. It is not an Arthurian game and a medieval fantasy game if you don't have the ability to go for a joust. I'm not saying everyone has to do it. I'm not saying that you should do it. You know, you do you. But if you're making a game in a setting, realize that, you know, if I'm playing, I want to joust. I want to do that. Make it a thing. Advertise it. I will buy. All right. Anyway, ambition and faith. That's an important part of any Arthurian legend, but really a lot of medieval legends as well. Ambition. The ability for someone to really be ambitious, to really seek to elevate themselves or die trying, is part and parcel with a lot of medieval stories and storytelling. And I think that's something in a way that is missing from some of our modern heroes, because our heroes, especially our superheroes, they generally aren't at risk a lot of times when they go and do stuff. Like, you know that they're going to pull through somehow. The people around them are at risk. Their loved ones, their family members, they're going to be at risk. That's what, you know, the people capture people's family members and use them, you know, like, oh, we're going to hold this person up and you're going to do what we want to do, otherwise we'll kill them, kind of scenario, or hurt them or whatever. But so they're doing all these things out of love and passion and compassion, and I think those are all great virtues, and we should be encouraging more of, to be a hero through love, or because of love and because of compassion, and those are great things. But I think one thing that we have been missing in some of our storytelling is the positive part of ambition, of looking at yourself and saying, I want to be more, and I will put myself at risk in order to become more, knowing that I may fail. And so I'd like to see more of that in some movies, um, especially when it comes to stories about heroes. I want to see more heroes being ambitious for self-improvement and being ambitious and truly being at risk. Not just like, oh, I'm at risk. Oh, I might have a bad day. Like, no, and that's what you get from war movies. When you watch movies about war, especially really accurate war movies, where they're telling the stories of real people. Band of Brothers is a great example of a bunch of people that they really put themselves to the hazard to accomplish something. And maybe not all of that was ambition, but there certainly was a lot of passion and a lot of dedication. And these are things that we need to see more of in our lives. We need to see more. And I know I sound like an old, like back in my day. Like, no, I'm not talking about back in my day. I'm talking about like we all haven't had this, um, at least not in all the same degree. And I think we need more of that in our society. There's more. We need to be. We need to find ways to encourage people to be better, while at the same time acknowledging our faults, acknowledging that perfection is, while something to strive for, it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to have made a mistake. And then also that it's okay, in fact, it is preferred to forgive, especially when someone is truly sorry. And that's another thing that I think I feel like it's hard to find because so many things become polarized in the way we tell our stories right now. So many times our characters uh, become polarized, become only this or that. And oftentimes, it, the if they aren't polarized, then there's so many layers of gray that you cannot recognize what is good. And I kind of talked about this a little bit during that video that I was talking about alignment in D&D. It's important that we understand where we are in this world, and it's important that we try to be better people. It's also important that we don't lose track of what is good and what is our good. And I think that's part of why I get so connected. I feel so connected to role-playing games that have such a clear cut, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys kind of thing. It's not because I can't see the shades of gray, because I can, and I acknowledge them, and I'm sure that I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I would hate to be judged the way that we tend to judge people today, because when everything is absolutes, you're either this or that. You are either a good person or you're not. And when one mistake can turn someone from a good person to a bad person forever, in the light of everything, it won't be long until everyone's a bad person, because no one will be left. Unless we remember how to forgive, how to look at a person or a character in a story and say, they did wrong, but they've paid for it. And maybe it's time to forgive. Not for their sake, but for our own. So that we're not carrying that anger. deeper into our lives. We don't keep that locked inside here. Whether we're talking about a character in a role-playing game or a person, maybe a friend, that has done something that you didn't like and that was wrong. And maybe they did it on purpose. Maybe they did it on accident. Um, and if they did it on purpose and they're not sorry, then that tells you something. But if they did it on accident and they're really truly sorry, maybe maybe it's okay to forgive and to learn how to forgive and to tell the difference between forgiving and forgetting. Because there is a difference. You can forgive someone and remember what they did. You remember it. You don't hold it against them anymore. But you're not going to fall under the same trap again either. So they can't do it to you again. That's a difference. Anyway, this is a more serious digression than I usually do. But it's something that weighs on my mind sometimes. I think that redemption arcs are also a thing that we should see more in role-playing games. Having a really good redemption arc of someone who did wrong and then understands and tries to redeem themselves, and maybe it takes them a long time, but having people also maybe rooting for them along the way, saying, hey, you know what, yeah, you hurt us a lot and we don't like you right now, but at the same time, if you keep this going, then there's a chance we will forgive you, but you've got to prove it. And have that be a redemption arc in your game or your story or maybe your personal life. And that's okay. I think we need more of that. Anyway, so this is really cool. I am really excited. I am really excited. I can't wait to get into it. Oh my God, look at this. Okay, the character sheet. Here we go. Knight's character sheet and woman's character sheet. The knight's sheet comes pre-filled in with a lot of information about combat skills. Women's sheets are different. Okay. Woman's gift and joust score are in the same spot on the two different sheets. For her heraldry, there's a diamond. For his, there's a shield, and you're drawn in. All right, I'm gonna read it up. I'm not gonna judge. I'm trying not to. I'm judging a little bit, but I also know this is Greg Stafford, and he's been very careful with what he does, and so I'm going to assume that I'm just having a knee-jerk reaction based on my own experiences, and I'm probably just way off base, and that's fine. I'm just surprised because I don't normally see character sheets separated out between men and women. that's normally not a thing. Here's one that's been a character sheet that is a knight's character sheet that's already been filled out, so you can see how it's filled out. I think that's kind of cool. And then another one. Oh, these are a bunch of pre-done characters. All right. No pre-done woman's character sheets. All knights. Now they leave. There's blank spots here for the name, so you can write in the name, and then they have a nickname after it called the Fighter, or the Master of the Hunt, okay, or the Courtier. So obviously, the assumption is an average night. All right. Can you imagine how weird it would be, or what you'd have to do in order to get the nickname, the moniker, the average night? Like all your like, hey, there's the Crusher, there's the Beast, there's the Wolf, there's the Hound, and all those other things, and who's that knight over there? Oh, that's Average. Oh, I'd hate that. Oh, I would hate that so much. Oh my gosh, it's brilliant. It's funny. I might put that in one of my books someday as a scene because it would be hilarious. All right, I've been going on for a bit. Pendragon. First impressions. It's nice. It's beautiful. I love it. I'm glad I have it. I can't wait to read it. Uh, it will wait because I've got a lot of other things on my plate right now. But for now, I got a spot right next to Dungeon Crawl Classics. Assuming. There we go. Right there. It will wait until the time comes. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry if I got a little weird. But, that's me sometimes. Say hello to the kitty. Hi, kitty. And have a good night. Peace be with you all. Bye-bye.